There's only 1 week left in the regular season. Next week we have conference championships, and then we'll officially have our 12-team playoff. With only 1 week remaining, there are still 22 teams who are alive in the playoff hunt. For some teams, their road is fairly easy, while for others, they need a lot of scenarios to go their way. Still, 22 teams are in it with a week left in the year. Back in the 4-team playoff era, that number would be right around 8 or so a lot more games are going to have massive implications this weekend. Today, we're going to go conference by conference and look at each team and their playoff odds. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. We'll start out in the American Conference, where both Tulane and Army are still alive. Now, I have Army alive, but with them, it's more like a 0.01% chance because as of right now, they're not ranked, and they would have to have a lot go their way. But for Tulane, they actually have a really prime opportunity to get a playoff spot. As of right now, they're currently ranked as the number 17 team in the country. Now, even if they went out, they're probably not going to make it because they would need help from other teams in front of them. First off, they would need to finish ranked higher than Boise State, so they'll need the Broncos to lose a game at some point. They could also get some help if they finish ranked above whoever wins the Big 12, because as of right now, the highest ranked Big 12 team is Arizona State, who is only 1 spot ahead of them. Again, a lot has to go their way, but for Tulane, they are still clearly in this. We'll go to the ACC with 3 teams still alive in Clemson, Miami, and SMU. We'll start with SMU, who's in a pretty interesting position considering they're ranked number 9 as of right now. They've already secured a spot in the ACC title game, but considering they're ranked number 9, I feel like if they lose either this weekend or in the ACC title game, they could be in jeopardy of falling out. Now, if they lose the ACC title game and let's say it's close, they shouldn't be penalized and fall out of the top 12, but knowing the playoff committee, I wouldn't be surprised if they give a 3-loss SEC team the advantage. Miami is in a much better position considering they're ranked number 6 as of right now. They play Syracuse this weekend, and if they win, they'll make it to the ACC title game. Now, considering they're going to be ranked number 6, if they lose that ACC title game, I have a hard time picturing the Hurricanes falling 6 spots out of the top 12. So kind of like with SMU, I feel like they're in whether they win or lose, but Miami definitely has a better chance considering they're ranked at 6 right now. Clemson is ranked number 12, and although they don't control their own destiny to play in the ACC title game, they could still make it there. If Miami loses this weekend, Clemson will play in the ACC title game. Now, if they win, they will definitely clinch a spot in the playoff, but if Clemson were to lose in the ACC title game, I think they would fall out entirely. Now, for Clemson, it actually might benefit them if they don't play in the ACC title game. They play number 15 South Carolina this weekend in a non-conference game. If Clemson wins that game, and they can do it convincingly, they might move up 1 or 2 spots and be ranked inside the top 10. Then at that point, they wouldn't have to play in an ACC title game. Let's say the game would be SMU and Miami, and if SMU were to lose, they would probably fall back a couple of spots, and Clemson would probably move up a spot in their favor. So for the Tigers, sure, winning the ACC would be nice, but as long as you win this weekend and don't have to play in the ACC title game, that actually might be the better path for them. Moving on to the Big 12, there are 4 teams still alive in Arizona State, Iowa State, Colorado, and BYU. Like I've talked about in my previous videos, all 4 of those teams are still alive to play in the Big 12 title. Now, based on where all these teams are currently ranked, with Arizona State at 16, Iowa State at 18, BYU at 19, and Colorado at 25, it's most likely that none of these teams are going to secure a top 12 bid. If they're going to make it to the playoff, that's going to require them winning the Big 12. For Arizona State and Iowa State, if they win this weekend, they'll make it to the Big 12 title game. Meanwhile, for BYU and Colorado, they're going to need some help from these other teams in order to make it there. Now, something that we do need to monitor in regards to all this, remember how earlier I was talking about Tulane, how they're ranked right behind Arizona State? Well, let's just say there's some chaotic scenario where number 25 Colorado makes it to the Big 12 title game and they win. Considering the ranked number 25 right now, let's say they play number 18 Iowa State or number 19 BYU in the Big 12 title game, they're probably not going to move up too many spots if they end up winning. They might jump up to maybe number 20 or maybe 19 at the absolute highest. Well, if Tulane wins out, there's actually a scenario where they finish higher in the rankings than the Big 12 champion. Now, if that's the case, I know this is a scenario that nobody's thinking about, but Tulane could actually get the 5th and final automatic bid. Now, this is assuming that Boise State wins the Mountain West and they finish inside the top 10, because you'd have the SEC, the Big Ten, and the ACC all securing bids. You then have the Mountain West securing a bid, and then if you have Tulane winning the American Conference, ranked higher than the Big 12's champion, it could be the American Conference champion that gets that 12th and final bid, while as the Big 12 doesn't even send a single team. It really is a crazy scenario that I feel a lot of people aren't really thinking about just yet, but it's something that could definitely happen. We'll move to the Big Ten, and there are 4 teams that are still alive: Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. Now, with all 4 of these teams, barring absolute chaos, they're all going to secure a spot in the college football playoff. Oregon has already secured a spot in the Big Ten title game, and they're going to be in with a win or loss in that game. Now, I guess things could be a little bit interesting if Oregon were to lose this weekend, and then they lose in the Big Ten title game. But let's be real, that's not going to happen. With Ohio State, assuming they're able to take care of business against Michigan this weekend, they're going to be in whether they win or lose in the Big Ten title game. Penn State finishes their season against Maryland, and if they win that game, they're in. But even if Penn State somehow were to lose that game, we just saw a bunch of these teams drop 5 or 6 spots for losing last week. So if Penn State were to lose to Maryland, at the absolute most, they would probably fall to number 10, number 11 at the absolute worst. So I think Penn State is in whether they win or lose this weekend. Indiana is the interesting one, as they dropped 5 spots and are currently ranked number 10. They finished the season against Purdue, considered to be one of the worst teams among the Power 4. If Indiana wins, they should be in, but again, knowing the playoff committee, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some shenanigans around them and the Hoosiers end up getting the shaft. If they win, they should be in, but it's nowhere close to a guarantee. Notre Dame wraps up their season on the road at USC this weekend. Now for Notre Dame, theirs is pretty easy. If they win, they secure a spot. If they lose, things could get interesting there as well. I talked about Penn State, where if they were to lose, I can't see them dropping more than 6 or 7 spots. For Notre Dame, considering they're ranked number 5, if they were to lose, is the playoff committee really going to drop them 5 or 6 spots, especially if it's a close loss to USC? So unless they get absolutely blown out, and there are a lot of teams behind them that end up winning, that end up jumping up a couple of spots, I think there's a reality where Notre Dame could still get in with a loss this weekend to USC. Moving on to the Mountain West, and we have 2 teams that are still alive. Obviously, you have Boise State, who is currently ranked number 11 in the entire country. If they win this weekend and win the Mountain West title, they are in, and they have a chance to secure a top 4 bye. But don't sleep on UNLV, who is now ranked number 22. If they win this weekend, they secure a spot in the Mountain West title game, where they have a chance to take down Boise State. If UNLV wins that game, they're definitely going to be ranked above Boise State, so for them, it's all going to come down to how Tulane finishes the season. If Tulane ends up losing the American Conference title game, UNLV could secure a playoff bid. We'll wrap up today's video in the SEC, where there are still 6 teams that are alive in the hunt: Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. We'll actually start with Texas A&M because their route is fairly easy. They have to win out to secure a spot. If they beat Texas this weekend, they'll play in the SEC title game. If they beat Georgia, they'll secure an automatic bid. But if they lose this weekend or in the SEC title game, they're going to be eliminated. For Texas, they've guaranteed a spot regardless of what happens. If they win this weekend, they'll be in the SEC title game, and they're in whether they win or lose against Georgia. Or if Texas loses to Texas A&M this weekend, well, they're currently ranked number 3. They're not going to fall 9 spots out of the top 12. So for Texas, they've guaranteed a bid already. Tennessee is ranked number 8, and they closed their season against Vanderbilt. Now, if Tennessee wins, which they should, there's no way they're going to fall outside of the top 12. Now, if they lose to Vanderbilt, that'll give them their 3rd loss, and I definitely think they would fall out. So for the Volunteers, you just got to win this weekend, and you're in. Now, here's where things are going to get very, very interesting. You have Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina ranked 13, 14, and 15 respectively entering this weekend. Alabama and Ole Miss are coming off a couple of brutal losses, while South Carolina is one of the hottest teams in all of college football right now, as they've won 5 consecutive games. Now, the reason South Carolina is in a tough spot is because they lost the head-to-head matchups against Ole Miss and Alabama, so that's why they're currently sitting behind them. But South Carolina probably has the best chance to make a jump out of all these teams. They go on the road to play number 12 Clemson this weekend, so if the Gamecocks win that game, you would have to imagine at the very least, they're going to be ranked at number 12 at the absolute lowest in the next round of rankings. Plus, maybe if there's chaos in front of them, they'll be ranked a little bit higher. Alabama finishes their season with Auburn, whereas Ole Miss finishes their season with Mississippi State. Neither one of those games would be an impressive win, so again, if South Carolina wins this weekend, they should jump over them. Now, the reason I'm not ruling out Alabama and Ole Miss is, well, because they are two SEC teams, and we know the playoff committee really would want to do anything in their power to get those teams in. I mean, who are we kidding? If you're the playoff committee, who do you think they'd rather have in the college football playoff if they had to choose between the two? Would they rather have Indiana, or would they rather have one of Alabama or Ole Miss? The same could be said about SMU and Boise State if they have an opportunity to rank those teams. We all know deep down they're going to give the SEC teams the edge. So although it's unlikely and they don't deserve it, I'm not ruling out anything for Alabama and Ole Miss at this point. Now for South Carolina, at least for them, I could say their spot would be earned because they would be riding a 6-game winning streak that would include victories over Texas A&M, Missouri, and Clemson, 3 teams that the College Football Playoff Committee has ranked inside their top 21 at the moment. Well, those are the 22 teams who are still alive in the College Football Playoff discussion. So what are you rooting for this weekend? What kind of chaos would you like to see? Whatever you want to see go down this weekend for the next College Football Playoff rankings, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos all season long, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share this video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.